version of Islam, which allows them to conclude the killing of American soldiers overseas is justified, that the attack of 9/11 was also justified, and that an attack on almost any American is justified.
Americans will always be a target and a legitimate target until America changes its nature in the international arena.
In separate and disturbing interviews, both look to one man as the true living model of Islam, Osama bin Laden.
I love Osama bin Laden. Wallahi, I love him. Like, I can't begin to tell you, because I haven't seen that he's really done anything wrong from the Sharia. I love him like more than I love myself.
And just this week, Mayor Bill de Blasio shut down the NYPD's demographics unit, a very controversial program that spies on Muslims in New York and New Jersey. A very controversial decision, and to talk more about this right now, Hank Sheinkopf, a Democratic strategist and Newsmax contributor, joins us now. Welcome, Hank.
Thank you, IBN.
So I want to ask you,
sure,
was this the right move?
Civil liberties matter in this country. There's no indication that this particular unit stopped any particular incident, and as tough as it may be for some people to understand, you just can't run around spying on human beings who happen to be Americans. It's not what we do.
Well, Hank, you know, they had a mafia unit that used to infiltrate the mafia, and there's no indication that this was a random spying on all Muslims or anybody just because they were Muslim. You say there's no indication that this was successful in stopping anything. I don't know that to be true or not true, but they certainly may not want to make everything that they had public. But this went into groups that were problematic, groups that they had under watch, groups that were suspect, groups that had promoted radical Islam or might have been promoting radical Islam. This is the same as they would follow any other ethnic group or problematic group.
Or people who are just exercising their right to have to practice their religion as they saw fit.
Absolutely.
That's the problem.
And I think that's what the controversial aspect of this program is, Steve, because it was the big controversy is that it spied on Muslims that were just shopping and praying and going about their daily business. The thing that is controversial about this is how broad it was. They didn't just spy. As it turns out, from what we know, they didn't just spy on extremists. They spied on people simply because of the religion that they practice.
You're always going to get. You're always going to have to come into contact with people who are not criminals, or in this case, not Islamists. So, Hank, you never would have let you never would have let the FBI or the cops or whoever did it infiltrate the mafia. I want to make this clear.
Let me make it very clear.
Talk about the difference between doing it to the mafia and doing it to Muslims.
If you'll be quiet for a second, I'll explain. Very simple. The FBI, when they used eavesdropping equipment, or when they did that kind of spying, or when they did those kind of surveillances, generally were involved with particular cases undertaken under the guidance of the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they also got warrants for those for many of the eavesdropping as required and doing the things they did. If you want to have a procedure that sets out particular guidelines for particular kinds of surveillance, that's fine. But broad surveillance of people who are going about their way is not the American thing to do. And yes, there are ways to do it that are perfectly lawful. We have FISA warrants that are used in national security cases. We have all kinds of stuff going on that is devised to protect people and may be close to the line on civil liberties violation. But this is over the top.
I'm with Andy McCarthy, who says we are now asking to be hit. When the President of the United States says his biggest fear is that a nuclear bomb will go off in downtown New York City, taking away a program which keeps track of the people who have been known to plot this in mosques. There have been, don't forget the blind sheik, the propaganda that's sold in many mosques in the tri-state area. This was not just in New York City. This was expanded into New Jersey and other places. I agree with Andy McCarthy, and I'll bow to the former U.S. Attorney's judgment. We are asking to be hit because of this. Let's move on to something disturbing out of Ukraine. John Kerry addressed this earlier today, that there are reports of Jews in the eastern Ukraine city of Donetsk, where Russian militants have taken over government buildings, and they have told Jews to register with the government. And boy, does this smack of other memories.
These are Ukrainian citizens who happen to be Russian, who are Russian speakers, and in eastern Ukraine there are many of them. This is now a confirmed report, obviously. Does it spark memories? Well, the Ukrainians were very much involved if you look at the historical accounts of the great, most researched crime in the history of the world, known as the Holocaust in Europe, the Ukrainians were very much involved in working with the Germans in those activities, and they didn't like, here's a case where they can get some revenge if they choose to. The problem is, what's the world going to do? Where's the outcry, and how quickly will there be one if there is to be one?
I think that's the big question there, and a lot of people have been really coming down on the Obama administration, particularly conservative, saying that he's not doing enough to, just putting sanctions, saying that I guess that's what he's saying, that he's going to increase economic sanctions on Putin. But when this news, very, very disturbing news of what they're doing to Jews, it's very alarming. Do you think, Hank, that this is going to put more pressure on President Obama to get more tough?
No, the President Obama has made his decision. He looked into Putin. Well, George Bush, his predecessor, also was wrong when it came to dealing with Putin. He looked into Putin's eyes and saw something that the rest of the world hadn't seen. Obama looked in his eyes and saw something different. The rest of us who were rational saw a fascist killer who was a KGB spy master and who made killing people his way of life. This guy has no borders, no morals, and no boundaries. It's hard to believe that he's directly involved in registering Jews, but it's not hard to believe that Ukrainians are involved. But where's the president? That's the question.
Well, we did hear from John Kerry. To his credit, he did denounce this as just barbaric in nature. Let's talk about, Hank, the upcoming presidential election.
Sure.
And I could ask you how much of a burden Hillary is going to have with all this Russia stuff. But I'd rather talk about a great piece by Dick Morris from Newsmax.com, right, where he talked about the fact that so far 9 states and the District of Columbia have voted to and they represent 136 electoral votes, right, to have their Electoral College representatives vote to the majority. In other words, states would commit to select electors pledged to vote for the national popular vote winner instead of going by the regular Electoral College. To me, this flies in the face of the Constitution, and this is dangerous.
In other words, you could have a lunatic who gets elected by a popular vote, put into the White House, who's campaigned on a platform of killing people who have one eye. It's nuts. You want to fool with the Constitution. The process to change it is very complicated for one reason, because people who wrote that Constitution were smart enough to understand what it would mean if you had to go through a real process to change it. Now, here's a case where they're going around the Constitution, around the law, to do something that's patently illegal and wrong. The same way that the Obama administration issues executive orders is the same way this Constitution, our Constitution, that's worked very well for more than 200 years, is now being tampered with. A bad move.
All right. Well, again, killing someone with one eye, or that kind of thing is kind of far-fetched. But what's not far-fetched is you're going to have states, the big states, will wind up electing the president of the United States. And if you think we have a divided nation now, if this ever comes to fruition, and if this trend continues, you're going to have a revolt around this country where Obama's going to probably need, or whoever's president or whoever's in charge of government, going to need all those munitions and tanks and camps and everything, because I don't think the people in the majority of states who will be left out of the process are going to stand for this. This
system was put in place to ensure that crazy people couldn't get control of the government, and so there was some check on the potential to go in either direction in an extreme. That's what I was talking about, Steve, and that's why it works. Don't change something that shouldn't be changed for the purpose of making some people very happy.
Well, I guess the hope is that the electorate wouldn't elect a crazy person. Usually they do go hand in hand. That seems like extreme rhetoric to me, Steve. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
We'll see. All right. Well, Hank, always a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Thank you.
Continue to have a good Passover. And
thank you.
We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to say, Liz, it's been a pleasure this hour, and thank you, and I hope to see you back soon. And
absolutely.
Stay safe from Mr. Putin. Of course.
That's I don't think I'll be going to Russia anytime soon.
No,
I think that's probably the safe.
Not. Yeah, and of course, I won't be going to Ukraine anytime soon, based on the news today either.
We should stay away from that region altogether.
Absolutely. All right, folks. When we come back, it's going to be the usual segment called Gimme 5, and I don't think you're going to want to miss this one, so stay tuned right here. Steve Malzberg, Liz Wall, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.